Welcome to Confessions of a Modern Artist. I'm your host, Luke Wynn, and my confession for today, my lack of patience never sped up the process.
This is my confessional. This is my confessional. This is my confessional. This is my confessional. This is my confessional.
Yes, I have to admit, I have been extremely impatient in my life. It has led to some very good things and some very, very bad things. And the only thing that I can gain from them is learning experience. I've learned so much through the last 31 years of my life, and especially the last decade. And this is one of those episodes where I really want to just share with you guys some truths, some inspiration, and also just some motivation, because a lot of times we do want to rush into life. We want to rush into different things. And I just want to allow you guys to remember just sometimes it is important to be patient. Before I get too deep into it, I just want to thank everybody who's been supporting me. I appreciate all 1,000 of you guys. Like, it's going crazy. We're going up. I got a lot of ghost followers, and it's fine. No, but I really am so grateful for the people who have been sharing, who have been supporting the movement, who have been commenting and just, starting a dialogue. And if you would like to have a confession, or you have anything that you have overcome and you'd like to discuss it with me, send me a DM and we can possibly have you on the show. But let's get to patience. Ironically, so I dropped an album called Healed in February. And the first song on that album is called Be Patient. And it's a beautiful song, if I do say so myself. I wrote it out of just feeling the raw emotions of, I had so much that I wanted to talk to my wife about that I couldn't express it to her. So I decided to write a song, and really, it just started to pour out of me. But it's ironic because looking back on it, I feel like I was talking to myself. At the time when I wrote that song, me and my wife, we had just moved to Arizona, and like you guys already know, things weren't going super good or anything like that. Like, they started off high and then they started to decline really quickly. And I just remember just being frustrated because my hope for leaving Reno was that things were going to go up. I just knew that, my dreams were going to come true. I had all these goals that I had set, and I just knew they were going to be accomplished. And to see them not be accomplished, it really started to frustrate me. And not only that, but because of my own frustration internally, it does affect, my wife who's right next to me, my kids. It affects how I speak to others. It affects my relationships. That lack of patience, it became this seed that really was causing me to just dwell on it. Dwell on everything that I wasn't, everything that I wanted to be. My impatience would cause me just to focus on just so much resentment of, what I wish I could have did or what I didn't do right. And this has been a common theme in my life of just trying to rush things, when you're going through the process, you don't know what it's going to look like. You know what you want, but it's like, for example, if I want to go to my job, right? I'm not envisioning myself walking down every single step, putting my shoes on. I got to go to my job, so I'm going to get to the car, go to the job. But there's so many different in-betweens from point A to point B. And a lot of times in my life, I kind of skip steps. One example is just getting married really early. I got married when I was 20 to someone I knew for 6 months. It sounded very romantic at the time, and during that season of my life, I just felt like I needed a wife to help empower me to the next stage in my life. But what eventually would end up happening, just as short as the courting stage was, the marriage ended. And the one thing that I learned from it is that's Luke. Luke is prone to taking really massive leaps way too soon. And even if I do have the fundamentals down, there's still in the past, historically in my life, there'd be this disconnect to where I feel like, okay, because I learned these lessons, now it's time for me to take this jump. And a lot of times that comes from me not seeking the right wisdom. That came from me being a little bit too sure of myself, way too confident. And honestly, what's the word? I misunderstood myself. I misunderstood where the idea really came from. Because it's like, do you want to get married this soon because your brother's getting married and now you're trying to fit in, or do you want to get married because you feel like you're ready to actually be a husband? And at that time, it's like, ideally, I knew what it meant, but just because I have this ideal feeling of what it means to be a husband and to take on that role doesn't mean that that's something to just dive deep into, especially without me even really knowing myself at that time. Another example of something that I just dove into really fast, like I talk about just growing up in Sacramento, trying to play the drums, me rushing to get on the drums every Sunday, trying to play and trying to prove myself, it led me to getting kicked off, which led to my humiliation, right? It led to me having to stop the song halfway through, get off the drums, and just, now I'm crying. But it was my just being a little over eager and impatient. And a lot of times you can get so confident in what you've been doing behind closed doors that you feel like you're ready for the big stage. And sometimes that's really not the case. And I just want to encourage you guys just to really reevaluate and take inventory in your life, because impatience does lead to failure, Failure is not the end, but there's certain things that you would want to be successful at, And a lot of times when you put yourself out there a little bit too soon, it could cause you to not be ready to take on what you're trying to do, You're not really ready for that weight. You can get there, you can build yourself there, but you have to really decide in your heart, like, am I really ready to carry out this mission? One thing that I've realized in my life is the lack of patience that I have for like relationships and for people. It could potentially cause me to cut people off way too soon, right? Like to end relationships like, oh, if they do this, I'm over it. Or if this doesn't go the way I want it, I'm over it. And sometimes these people, they can literally lead you to the next stage in your life, For example, a great example actually is the podcast that I do with Adrian Ward, the Even If podcast. The first time I met him, it was weird. Like we didn't vibe together. He was on some weirdo stuff. I didn't know what was going through his mind, but he kind of like belittled me a little bit. I felt that way, and I was a little upset about it. And there was this event that we were going to go to like a few hours later, and he was going to be there. And I was really debating, like, do I really want to do this? I'm like, God, do I? Like, am I really going to be around this dude? Like, I don't even, like, whatever. I said, you know what? I go to this church, and whether he liked me or not, I'm about to be in his face, because I'm only going to be me. I'm not going to change who I am because of, the way somebody treated me. So I end up going there, and then we end up hitting it off. Like, we get a reintroduction. We end up hitting it off. I end up tell him that I do podcasting, and then he ends up having me come on the show. Next thing you know, I end up getting a job through working with him. So many opportunities have been opened up to me because I was patient, because I didn't allow my desire for people to love me immediately. I didn't allow that to cause me to shy away from him. And that's something that I've realized too about myself is a lot of people, it takes time for people to warm up to me, like for me to warm up to people. I'm not this person who you see and straight off the bat, it's like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. It's funny too, because one of the homies, he said that when he first met me, he didn't think that I would mean anything in his life. He was like, yo, who is this guy with his corny raps? It's funny now, but a year ago, that's something that really affected me, because I'm like, why? Like, why can't people just trust that I'm as dope as I think I am, or that I'm as amazing as I think I am? And sometimes it's not about that, because that desire it's really pride. And if my pride and my ego are constantly getting stroked by the people who come around me, they'll never actually be able to benefit me. I wouldn't be able to grow because I'm just hoping for them to validate how I feel about myself. But like, I don't know, I guess I'm just stubborn enough to like sit in somebody's face and keep being myself until they finally like realize, you know what, this dude is dope. Yeah, I'm very impatient, you guys. And I think the one thing that I've found is like I'm aware of how impatient that I can be, so I don't always allow that impatience to lead me. I don't allow my desire to have something now to lead me, because when I was doing that and I was chasing certain things, I kept dropping the ball. Opportunities kept slipping through my hands. And in music, it's like you can be so ready to go that you go all in. But if you're going all in and you think it's going to have a quick return, you're going to be super, super devastated, especially nowadays, because it's like making music, being an artist, it's like a fixed fight at this point. You have to just keep going, keep pushing, keep going. If you're thinking that you're going to put an EP out and it's going to go platinum next week, like every record that I ever put out, I imagine it going platinum that year. Like, there's not a single song that I ever wrote that I didn't just know wasn't going to take me to the Grammys. But when that desire doesn't happen, it can deflate you, which is something that I've struggled with through a lot of the music that I put out. A lot of the different projects that I put out, the lack of the reception that I wanted would cause me to be deflated. So that a month after it's out, I'm not platinum, I'm not viral. So now I'm depressed. That's what I am. I'm depressed. I'm double wood. My album went double wood, and now I'm depressed because I'm not where I want it to be. And the truth of the matter is, you have to have patience in the process. Have patience during every single moment. Enjoy the failures. Always have goals. Always have high expectations for yourself and put your art, to a high standard. But you have to be realistic with how you approach life. You have to be realistic with how you approach your career, how you approach your craft. Because a lot of the people who you do see who are number one selling artists, who do go viral, who do, end up on Jimmy Fallon, it's like you don't see their journey up to that point. You don't see the luck that went into some of the things that happened, the timing. And that's something that's very important. It's timing, And when you're impatient and you're just going forth because you're eager to get things done, sometimes you do things too quickly. You do things so quickly that the timing isn't even right for it. So then you do put it out, but the stars don't align. It doesn't work out. The one thing that I'm becoming comfortable with right now is knowing that my life is not mine. My life is led and guided by God. And in being submitted to God, I have to understand that everything is according to His timing. So it's my job to be aligned to Him and to His word, so that everything that I do, I understand if somebody says no, it's because God said no. Somebody says yes, it's because that's the door that got opened up. But also discerning that a yes doesn't even always mean it's a blessing. And sometimes a yes is an opportunity for me to go back and seek God to see if that's something that God wants me to do. It's really a fine line, because sometimes you can be so patient that you miss out on every opportunity. A lot of times the decision making that we do in our lives, it's like a split second. You can go left or right. And I think the biggest thing for me is to always be in the proper headspace, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, so that when those opportunities do present themselves to me, I'm able to really evaluate it from a clear mind. Because all those times when I did rush an album or when I did put music out and think things were going to go crazy, I was going through a struggle. So a lot of it was money motivated. So now, because I'm motivated by money and I need to just blow up so that I can provide for my family, now nothing is timed correctly because I'm frantic, versus if you're at a place of peace, if you're at a place of stability and things are going steady, you can actually look at what's before you and make the right decision according to wisdom, mentorship, guidance, and ultimately what your end goal is. So it's a really thin line sometimes, but practicing a lifestyle of patience, it will allow you to where when those opportunities do come up, you can mentally slow everything down and you're not so eager just to jump forward. Yeah, so where am I now? Right now, I will definitely say in the last few months, there's been so many changes in my life. From going through counseling, from being mentored, from receiving wisdom from people who have been they've been where I'm at and they are where I would like to be. Right, where I stand right now is patience is everything. Like, I'm not going to allow my lack of patience to destroy potentially good things that are going to happen to my life. I'm not going to allow my lack of patience to cause me to make decisions that are detrimental to my family, that are detrimental to my career, that are detrimental to my relationship with God. Right now, I'm just operating at a place of patience and consistency and discipline. What's your confession for today? In your life, have you allowed your own ambitions and your desires to cause you to make hasty moves? And in making those hasty moves, did it not end in success? And going forward in your life, are you going to continue to allow this? Or are you going to start operating from a place of patience and consistency? My contacts are like falling out of my eyes, guys. I'm sorry. Trying to be all emotional. Contacts falling out. I'm challenging you guys to just be patient and enjoy the process, enjoy the journey, and be present and in the moment. So every step of the way, you're there. You're there and you're realizing like what you want to do, where you want to be, you're already there. Just continue to walk, continue to move forward, and you'll get to your goals.
Yeah, this is my confessional. This is my